Okay, welcome back to Ashes and Alibis. And last episode, we talked about Karen Reed. We kind of introduced you to the story and let you know what's going on. Very few details, but that was just the intro. The man that she was talking to has become a big deal in this case because he's the main reason they think this might be a cover-up. She was talking to a man named Brian Higgins. Brian Higgins was friends with Brian Albert. Brian Albert was the person that owned the house where the party was that night, where they found John O'Keefe's body out front. So tune in. This is part 2 of the Karen Reed case, and this is Ashes and Alibis.
Shadows whisper in the night, lost souls fading out of sight. Echoes linger in the skies through the smoke of ashes and alibis.
Okay, so who's Brian Albert? Brian Albert is a Boston police officer and the owner of the house where John O'Keefe's body was found outside on January 29th, 2022. He and his family, including his wife and kids, were inside the house the night of the party. He has become a key figure in the defense's cover-up theory, which claims O'Keefe may have been attacked inside the house and dumped outside. After seeing what I've seen so far, this theory seems to add up more than the actual Karen Reed theory of backing up into him. Yes, granted, as this case goes along, you will start to see that there is a few things that point right at her. There's just a lot of other things that are missing and stuff that's been covered up, obviously, and they're not so alleged anymore. And so that stuff is starting to come to light, which is why we're seeing a retrial in the Karen Reed case. Brian Albert's testimony he says that he confirmed there was an after party at his house that night that John O'Keefe died. He testified that John did come to the house, but did not recall seeing John inside of the home. He claims that he fell asleep around 12:30 to 1 a.m. and didn't hear or see anything suspicious outside. He denied there was any altercation or fight inside the house that night, and he also stated that the family's dogs were home, but there's no evidence the dogs were outside that night. Now, those are a little suspicious right off the bat, because if anything was to happen at that house that night, whether it was with the son or if it was with Brian Higgins or whoever it was with, there would be a lot of commotion. I guarantee someone at some point, even if he wasn't woke up by the commotion, would have woke up Brian, the owner of the home, and let him know what was going on at his home. But that never happened, so his sleeping theory doesn't really hold a lot of weight. Some of the cross-examination points were: under questioning, the defense highlighted that it seems implausible John O'Keefe would stand outside for hours in a snowstorm. The defense pressed him about security cameras, asking why no clear footage exists of O'Keefe arriving or what happened outside. They also asked why he didn't notice O'Keefe's body in his yard when he was leaving the next morning. You would assume that if you were walking out of your house and somebody is dead in your front yard, that you would probably see them, but he says he did not see anything. Brian Albert's kids also testified. His adult son, Danny Albert, testified that he was in the basement with other guests drinking and playing games when John O'Keefe arrived. Said he didn't see John O'Keefe inside the house at all. Said the party started winding down after midnight and people left at different times. He claimed he didn't hear any fighting, commotion, or unusual noises outside. He denied any cover-up or moving of O'Keefe's body. Now, one thing that I've noticed that has caught my attention is they kind of keep pressing the whole outside button. Whenever Brian Albert was to say, the dogs didn't go outside, or Danny saying, I didn't hear anything outside, meaning that more than likely this all happened inside, and they're trying to say, so they don't get caught lying, that they didn't see it outside, because they really didn't see it outside because it happened inside. But the teenage daughter, and I'm not sure what her name is, the public reporting indicates that she didn't testify at length. She was not a central witness. Any statement from her would have supported that she was asleep and didn't hear or see anything. See, this is all kind of tough for me to believe, because if all of that commotion was going on at that house that night, I can almost guarantee you that all these people were going to be sleeping through it. So dad and daughter sleeping, probably not, especially with the party going on. What the defense argues about the testimony is the defense claims that the Albert story just doesn't add up. Multiple witnesses say John O'Keefe was seen inside the house, but according to Brian Albert, he never saw him in the house. But he also is trying to say he was asleep while everyone was partying at his house, which doesn't really make any sense. They point to injuries on O'Keefe's body, possible dog bites or blunt force trauma not consistent with a car strike. And that's the case right there. If you were going to get hit by a car, I feel like in order for you to get hit by the back light into your head, you'd probably either be sitting on the ground or of some sort. But the story wasn't that. It was she dropped him off and then he got hit by the car. And that just is a little strange to me. They argue that the family and guests would have noticed if he'd been hit by a car outside, unless he died elsewhere and was left in the snow. So you can kind of hear how they're kind of trying to, put other theories in the middle of what actually happened. So, and granted, this is all alleged. We don't know exactly what happened, but every time they seem to say their witness testimony, there's like something added onto it. It was either outside, or it was outside, or I didn't see it, or I was sleeping. So there's definitely some cover up going on. It's just kind of hard to see who and why at this point. I mean, we all have our theories. Both of these Bryans have not exactly been honest. So yeah, we'll just keep going. The defense has suggested that Brian Albert and other party guests lied to protect themselves and each other, implying a police culture of protecting their own. And I've always said that, I've played sports my whole life, and a lot of time you're going to stick up for your team. Your teammate might not even be in the right, but when you have a team mentality and you're like that pack mentality, you have each other's back. And if you think that police are any different, you're sadly mistaken. Some of the key conflicts that they've had in the trial, things aren't adding up. Like, did John go inside? Brian says he didn't see him inside at all. But the defense says other witnesses says he did enter and they did see him come in. So Brian Albert's going to use the whole, I didn't see him because I was asleep, right? Sure, buddy. Did anyone hear a crash? Brian says there was no unusual noises. Why? Because he was asleep, right? Neighbors report a commotion, yelling, and a crash, which is interesting to me because if there was an actual crash noise, then that would kind of play into the Karen Reed theory, right? Dogs. Family dogs were inside, and the defense says that injuries may be consistent with dog bites. Listen, if the dogs attacked him, it didn't have to be outside. So every time Danny or the dad, whoever says, it had to be, they weren't even outside. And they probably weren't. They probably did all that inside. Like, I don't know where the whole theory of the dogs attacking him outside was anyway. So, and maybe they are just talking too much. Maybe that is where it happened. But, I don't even know if there was, I don't know. I have no idea. Security footage. There's no clear exterior camera footage. That's a little fishy. I mean, there's cameras all over the house. They did end up, I guess, getting some footage, but all of that stuff was clipped out. Why was there none? If the house had cameras, the defense wants to know why there was no footage of anything. Pretty weird considering they're all police officers. Brian Albert and his family have consistently denied any wrongdoing, violence, or knowledge of how O'Keefe died. Their testimony supports the official prosecution theory that Karen Reed hit O'Keefe with their SUV and he died outside. The defense, however, argues their statements are incomplete or false. The timeline doesn't fit, fueling the theory of cover-up inside the house. This is why Albert's family testimony is so controversial. It's either the backbone of the prosecution's simple drunk accident story or the heart of the defense's conspiracy theory that Karen Reed was framed to protect people inside that house that night. What is your theory? Do you think Karen did it? Do you think this was the flirty police officer that she had been talking to and shared the kiss with? Or do you think something happened between Brian Albert and his kids? There's a lot of different theories. Let me know. We'll be doing part 3 coming up this next week. I would love to hear your theories. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, throw us a like. Till next time, this has been Ashes and Alibis.